Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Building a Computer. In the last episode, we talked about some things about how how we're building a ROM. Yeah, we talked about a ROM. But today, we're not actually building a ROM, we're not doing any of that. I undid all that, because it doesn't fit into my plan. You see, I actually have a plan drawn up right now that is actually better than what we were going to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Alright, so it may be a little hard to see, but what we got here is this is how I want it to go. I want it to flow from the ROM to a bus, which will take it to the, a register, which will take it to the ALU, to the MUX, which is the multiplexer, and then we have the control unit at the end, or something that transfers it back to register A. So, that should be, pretty simple. Now, the thing is that the control unit and the ROM will be directly in coordination. So, as you can see, the ROM can call the control unit with some instructions. It can send some instructions there on what to do. And then this one can send, well, pretty much calls the next line of ROM. And then the ROM is... So yeah, that's pretty much the design. But how did I go from having a register that is basically you can't call any function in it? So this register over here, where you can only really tell it to write a line and then read the next, or to read the previous line that you've written. How did I go from this to a design where I can tell it to write, I can tell it to read, and I can tell it to, you know, perform operations, but I can also do that for multiple different blocks? How did I do that? Well, this is the most simple way I can do it. As you can see here, we have registers, which are storing the data from here. So when this goes on, these will go off, which will allow the pistons to store whatever lines are being written. For some reason, why is that one on? Why? Why is that one on? Why is it on? What the heck? What the heck is this? Okay, please do not be on. I need to... Why is the piston broken? Why? Did they replace the redstone with bedrock? They should have done that. Bedrock Edition redstone sucks. Yeah, so this thing actually needs a block update detector, unfortunately, so, that would either be a trapdoor on the side, but I don't think that's gonna work in this case, so we'll just, we'll power it with redstone, but then we'll update it with this thing so he knows when to switch. But it might have a tick of delay. Then this guy is also... No, he's slightly different. I didn't think about that. Okay. Well, anyway, so apparently every other two have a problem. So this guy's the one with the problem? No, it's every three there's a problem with it. Oh my gosh. Okay, well at least the main design won't have this issue. So yes, while this one is on, it can actually read and then save the data that you've put into it. And as you can see, this also affects the one over here. But why is this one not having to save any data or anything? Well, it's because these repeaters are still locked. So that allows us to choose which line we're using to save the data. And now we can do the next part, which is saving the data. So that is basically going to be a flip of this switch, locks all those. Then we can change what we're doing for the next one. But we're not gonna be using okay, where is it? Did it save any of the data? Hold on a second, I think it broke. So this was working earlier. Not sure why it's not working right now. It should definitely be working right now. Why? Oh. I mean, that's a simple issue. I can understand. Okay. So as you can see, in this design, the lines that have the slime blocks in front of them are powered, and we can flip. So if we don't want to be reading that one, we can flip this one off, and maybe let's say we want to read this guy. First, let's make a bit of a code on him. We'll put like let's do that. So we'll read this guy now. So as you can see, this is what the pistons look like. What we need to do is we need to flip this one off, which allows us to save the data, and then we can flip this one on. That one's off, and boom. Now we're reading this line of code. That means we can read and write this line, and then choose which one we're reading, whether we're reading this line or that line. If we go over to here, this is the register. Well, in quotation marks, I should say. This is just awful. This is like the worst design I could ever come up with, but it was the most basic way of saving all the data. Except you couldn't choose what you're reading and writing and all that stuff. It's just not good. Let's just say that. Let's just say, in most simplest terms, this design is awful. So, the problem with it is that whenever you can't just choose, okay, so let's say I want to read this line. Well, this line's in front of it before you can read it. So you have to unwrite this line in order to write this line into here, and then whatever you wrote here, I mean, what if you wanted to use this line again? Like, what if you wanted to use this line after this line? Well, I guess you could have programmed it in, but let's just say you didn't program it in. What if you wanted to use this line again at some point? That's the problem with this design, because you just can't choose to use the same line over and over again, and you can't, you know, do buffers with it. So, yeah. So it's basically a buffer, not actually a data storage system. Now, I did finish the multiplexer, as you all might have seen, and that is all good. And I forgot to mention yesterday in the multiplexer, these sideways ones. What are these sideways guys doing? Why are they here? Well, these sideways guys are also multiplexers. Boom. There you go. You've heard it first. These are also multiplexers. Why are all of these A and Bs off? Are they... Oh, they're all on. Did I save all that data? I've saved all the data in them. Okay, well, we'll fix that in a second. So this is the new register, and it may look a little funny, but it is the same thing, basically, and it's a little bit more complex. Well, no, compact. That's what I meant to say. Anyway, as you can see, it needs, for some reason, again, it needs... I don't even know why. Just work. For once, just work, pistons. This doesn't make any sense, okay? Please just work. You know what? Okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do about these guys. Leave it to pistons to not work when you want them to. Okay. So I think the problem actually might be that we are trying to drop the redstone dust on these, and that might be an easier fix than just going in and adding all those guys. I really don't want to add those guys. So let's explain what I'm talking about here. So when you do this, right, when you do this shape here, basically it dropped right on top of it, which might have caused issues. But if you do this design, it has no issues at all. There we go. That is just what I want to see. No issues at all. And you may be thinking right now, what is the difference between a RAM, a register, and all that stuff? Well, I'll tell you right now. So, RAMs, they store more energy. Not more energy, they store more bits, okay? They store more bits. More bits, and it's slower. Whereas a register stores less bits, but needs to be fast because it is part of the CPU. The CPU needs to store a bit of information because, you know, it just does, you know? Can't tell you why it needs to store information, but it does. In fact, what we're building right now is actually technically a CPU, and the RAM is what we're going to add to it as part of the peripherals. And the reason you need a fast register, or you want a register to be fast, is because you want to be able to read data when the CPU requests it for, you know, what it's going to be doing. And it's going to be doing operations on the data inside the register. And the ROM is what tells it how to do these things. So the ROM, he's not a guy who's going to be written. He's the guy who's going to be read. So, that's the simplest way of explaining it. So you got a guy who you read, he tells you the instructions for how to do the things, and then you have another guy who will tell you, basically, he stores all the information in his head, and then the other guy is just like, he's just going to be there for a very long time to hold all the information. So that's a good analogy, I guess. A very, very poor analogy still. Alright, so now let's talk about these guys. What are they doing? So, the blue, as you can see, is almost in line with the red over to the left of it, but it's actually the blue right line, which is a B line, B right line. So, B right line is over here, A right line is over here. And you're wondering why I want to know which one is A and B. Well, because, you know, when I get my outputs from there, which I'm going to be getting a 16-bit output, unfortunately, I don't really know how to store that in the register yet. I need a way to get a 32-bit output from there, and that's the problem, because the amount of inputs I have possible is kind of bad. So, of course, technically, the A and the B, I should just store it in the first few bits of it, I guess, and then when it carries out, you know, okay, I'll figure out a system that works, but still, it's a little complicated, and I'm gonna need a bus. I said I hate buses, but I'm gonna need a bus. So we're gonna have a ROM above this. After I have all of this register stuff completed, I'll have a ROM that goes up above it, and will also connect to these guys. Why aren't we connecting these guys to the register, you may ask? Well, the register doesn't actually tell things what to do. The register is just where we store the numbers between operations. So basically, the way I'm using the register is that when we're going to be doing some mathematical operations, we're going to need that for the register, so we can run the numbers over and over and over again and do different things to them. So you could do addition and then subtraction to the same number. Of course, this machine doesn't do subtraction, because I forgot to put in the bit flips. Okay, I figured out why they get stuck. These guys were quasi-conducting as they went into the block, so it caused it to quasi-conduct going in for some reason. I don't know why it's doing that when it... Okay, I guess we'll just ignore it. We'll just fix it up. So, because we're running out of time for today's episode, I'm gonna finish off by unwriting some of these codes. For example, this line of code, and then this line of code as well. Then we're gonna rewrite that one, and rewrite this one, and then we're gonna go ahead and write a few bits of data on here. So, A plus B will carry over. We'll save that into the system, so we'll go ahead and hit save, but it doesn't really matter, so... Well, actually, that does kind of matter. Yeah, we'll just, A times A plus B, save that. We'll do some B, and then we'll do some A. Wait a second, that will cause a carryover. Hold on, we'll do A, and then we'll do some B. And then we'll save it. And then we'll hit the read command, which now reads that whole line. And we'll go check the outputs just to see if it's functional. And it should have changed quite a bit of stuff. So we're doing AND instead of NAND. We're doing OR instead of NOR. That's how it was yesterday. And then all these guys are off, except for that guy who's supposed to be on. Then for our A. Who's our A? Is it this guy? A. So A's got NAND on. OR on. Not B is on. Boom. Boom. That is good. So that is how we want it to be. And on this one, it should be not A is on, which should be the slight difference between the two. And it looks as if that is the case. So these three should all be on. Good. So yeah, if you all have enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking and subscribing. If you guys got any comments, questions, or suggestions, leave them down below. Because I do have answers to some questions. I try to answer them. I'm probably very bad at explaining things, but hey, if you ask me in the comment section, I could probably do it better there. Yeah, I'll see you all next time, and goodbye.